Global War 36 enthusiast here with Operation Thunderball, turn 8.8 KMT. It is January 1940. Before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about a change to the rules about defending submarines in version 4. If you recall back to Hambone's turn on 8.5, he attacked with this seaplane out of Gibraltar. He attacked this submarine, Panzer J's submarine, with a destroyer and a seaplane. That submarine there is custom made by Sky Marshal. Shout out to Sky Marshal for his amazing naval unit work. You can tell he really loves the naval units. Anyway, in version 3, if you attacked a submarine like this and you got a hit, then the submarine could choose to fire back before it died. And if you missed, the submarine in version 3 could choose to submerge, or it could choose to fight if it wanted to go another round. But that's not how it works in version 4. In version 4, if you look at the naval combat sequence, step number 9, it says that defending submarines submerge. So basically, defending submarines get one round of combat, and they submerge whether they want to or not. So if Hambone had missed there in Sea Zone A46 with both his seaplane and his destroyer, Panzer J would have fired with his submarine and submerged. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Instead of choosing, do I want to fight or do I want to submerge, you kind of do both. But this has important tactical implications in naval combat. If a KG player is looking for the cheapest number of hit points for naval units, they might think that it would be submarines, because with improved construction, the price of a submarine is only 5. So you could say, well, I just want to basically buy chaff. I want to buy hits that will get absorbed. But it's a risky way to build your navy, because if you're on the defense, then after the first round, every surviving sub that survives the first round will submerge, whether you want them to or not. You might want them to continue in the combat, but they are forced on step 9 to submerge if they're defending subs. That doesn't apply to attacking subs, so it would be legit for you to buy submarines if you knew for sure you're going to be the attacker, but you don't always know that you'll be the attacker. So I just wanted to point that out to people watching. All right, let's go over here to KMT. Okay, purchases. I have 3 IPP to spend. I'm going to purchase nothing and save 3 IPP. I won't have any combat movement or non-combat movement. I don't have any units to place. Just reviewing the disposition of my forces, I have 10 militia, 22 infantry, 1 mountain infantry, 2 cavalry, 3 anti-aircraft artillery, and 1 artillery. Collect income, I get 1 plus 2 for the Burma Road, so I end the turn. I had 3 saved, I end the turn with 6. Now we're going to start the USA's turn. Got my builds laid out this time, try to do a more organized job than I did last time. Peacetime income increase. PBE generated a 12. So USA's income increases to 38. So I rolled a 10 the first round and a 12 the second round. My tech is just fumbling, but my peacetime income increases are stellar, and I think I'd rather have the peacetime income increases. Okay, so 7 tech rolls. First, I tried for advanced artillery at a 7 or higher. PBE generated a 4, so I failed. Second, I tried for improved construction at a 7 or higher. PBE generated a 3, so I failed. Third, I tried for jet fighters at an 8 or higher. PBE generated an 8, so I did succeed. I went from stage 1 up to stage 2 with my jet fighters. At this moment in time, I've got 7 techs that are all stage 2. Next, I tried for long-range aircraft at an 8 or higher. PBE generated a 5, so I failed. Fifth, I tried for large ship construction at an 8 or higher. PBE generated a 2, so I failed. Sixth, I tried for heavy strategic bombers at a 9 or higher. PBE generated a 12, so I succeeded, and I get my first tech to stage 3. 7th, I tried for strategic rockets at a 9 or higher. PBE generated a 1, so I failed. Purchases. I have 52 IPP to spend. I'll get 1 anti-aircraft artillery for 4. I'm going to upgrade the minor port in Midway to a major port for 4. That's 8. I'm going to lend lease a fighter to Great Britain for 10. That's 18. I'm going to lend lease a fighter to Free France for 10. That's 28. And I'm going to lend lease an artillery to KMT for 4, bringing me to 32. I will save 20 IPP. Combat movement. I just got 1. Now that I have exceeded 35 IPP with the United States, I can conduct movement of my naval units as long as I end the turn adjacent to U.S. territory. So I'm going to have 1 destroyer here in New York leave port and go on out to Sea Zone 27 and be designated as an escort. So that is a combat movement, and I can do it as long as I'm within 3, which I just love little helpful aids to this V4 map that it has the Monroe Doctrine, labeled, so you know how many sea zones are 3 away. So I am allowed to be on escort duty in that sea zone, having reached 35 or higher with the U.S. Now we'll go to non-combat movement. From New York, 1 destroyer leaves port and moves to Sea Zone 36. 1, 2, 3. I want to make sure Sea Zone 36 is in screen. Okay, yeah, it is. Great. Okay, from Washington, D.C., this fleet consisting of, again, let me see if that's on count. So, yeah, oh, totally, yeah, okay. So 1 fleet carrier, 2 battleships, 1 heavy cruiser, 1 light cruiser, and 1 destroyer. This will all leave port here and move 1, 2 to Sea Zone 36. From Washington, D.C., these 2 tactical bombers are going to fly down and land on the carrier in Sea Zone 36. From Texas, this light cruiser, destroyer, and transport will all leave port and go into Sea Zone 36, A36. I keep saying 36, but I have to say A. And then 2 coastal subs in A30 here are just going to move down 1 to Sea Zone A37. From Washington, D.C., 1 infantry is going to strategic rail move all the way over to San Francisco. Okay, so let's move over here to San Francisco. Let's see if we can get that in screen. This is going to be kind of tricky because of where I'm located in the room. I'm kind of pinned. I've pinned myself in. Okay. So, from San Francisco, 1 naval transport is going to pick up that infantry from San Francisco and move 1, 2 to Hawaii, pick up that anti-aircraft artillery, and move it to Midway. So let me run around to the other side of the board and do that. So this 1 transport's going to leave, naval transport's going to leave port, go into here. That's 1, or that's not 1, that's just 0 to move out to sea. 1, 2, pick up the AA again. 3, drop both of them off in Midway. This destroyer will leave port and go 1, 2, 3. This fighter in San Francisco will go 1, 2, 3, 4, land in Hawaii. These 2 coastal submarines will move from Sea Zone P25 down to P30. This naval transport in Hawaii will go out of port and then move 1, 2 back to P25, and then go in port in San Francisco. This Navy will leave port in Hawaii, and go out to sea in P29, consisting of 2 battleships, a heavy cruiser, and 2 destroyers, and then move from P29 to P22. I think that is all the movement that I have. Let me double check. I did move the coastal subs. Okay, placement of units. So 1 anti-aircraft gun is going to go into San Francisco. Close enough. We'll knock that down. Oh, the reach. That guy's in San Francisco. And then I'm going to upgrade that minor port in Midway to a major port. Okay, then for Lend-Lease, I don't think I need to show this, but from Washington, D.C., the British fighter is going to go over to southern England. It's a straight shot, no interdiction, no blockade, and debark there in southern England. The French fighter is going to leave Washington, D.C. Now, this one's a bit tricky. Maybe I shouldn't leave Washington, D.C. Let's leave New Orleans. Then if we leave New Orleans, it will come across through Gibraltar. There's nothing that can interdict me. And so I will debark in northern Algeria. I didn't need to worry anyway. Geez, I'm not at war. What am I thinking? And then finally, here with the KMT artillery piece, it is going to embark in San Francisco, travel across here to Burma, and then take the Burma Road up to Yunnan. So I'll end up with 2 artillery there with the KMT. Collect income. I collect 38. I had 20 saves, so I end the turn with 58. Let's set the U.S. up with 58. Okay. Then we have some end of round issues. The only marker that we need to get rid of, we have to get rid of 3 markers. This guy, this was just a sample to talk about. And then there's another marker down here off the coast of Africa. That damage marker gets removed too. Okay. And then we do Molotov-Ribbentrop. So the Molotov-Ribbentrop pact is in effect, so Germany receives 5 IPP, and that brings him up to 58, tied with the US. And then USSR receives 3 IPP, bringing him up to exactly 35. And then Boston Bruce instructed me to roll for improved logistics. PBE generated an 8, so he barely failed, which was a total of 5 failed tech rolls for the USSR this turn. So let's just talk about how the game's going. Okay, America. We're in great shape. I mean, this is phenomenal to be turn 8 and I'm at 38. That puts Silk in a tougher position just because I got lucky. He's definitely the much more skilled player. And he's having a good game, I think a good game as far as tech. And he's having a great game as far as, well, I'll go over and talk about Japan. But now the U.S. can move its naval units, and that's gonna put some pressure on him. Note that I can't move anything through the Panama Canal, so my units in the Atlantic are basically pinned in the Atlantic, and the Pacific Fleet similarly pinned there. I think that's about all I have to say about the U.S. So Great Britain. Okay, Great Britain is, I think, under a lot of pressure. I mean, it's kind of scary to be Hambone and to see Germany with the two air transports, four paratroopers. He's got a lot of aircraft. Germany does. They're spread. He's got aircraft spread over there in Europe. You know, Romania has a fighter and a tactical. Hungary has that fighter, but there are a lot of fighters in the European theater. And the most menacing thing that Hambone has to face are these two Marines that Panzer J just bought. So he's got the two transports up there just off screen. He's got two transports, and it's really kind of a frightening position to be in right now until America gets in the war. Britain has to be very cautious. So I really respect Hambone's defense. He started it's not on screen. He started a fortification last turn in London. If we look down here in Africa, the Italians they moved this motorized infantry over. So maybe he senses the presence from the French, or he's trying to put pressure on Free France. The Italians aren't even going to try to defend Abyssinia, but they have a really nice force here: 6 infantry, cavalry, militia. He's got that tactical, but he pulled his fighter back as Italy. He has a force, naval force, the Italians down here off the coast, and 1 German submarine. But this line can only have a max of 1 damage, which is what happened last time. You can see that the British have some forces, but not quite as many as the Italians do. So that's what's going on in Africa. Let's take a look at what's going on with Boston Bruce up there in Russia. I guess let me start at the top there up in Finland. It doesn't look like he has that many troops. Maybe he does have enough to invade. Is my camera leaning over? Okay. Maybe he has enough to invade Viipuri, but it doesn't look like he's going to go for Helsinki with Russia. I worry that Boston Bruce is not saving for a big purchase, but I guess that you don't have to as much in V4. I'm a nervous Nelly, but I guess Panzer J doesn't have that much right now, but I'm sure every turn he's going to keep building up. Down here in Iran, let's get this out of the way. There's one key territory left, southern Iran. I'm pretty sure that Boston Bruce is going to attack that, even though it will open himself up later on. Perhaps Boston Bruce is going to go after Iraq. I think this might be a problem unless he's going to do an air transport, but he doesn't quite have enough to get down to southern Iraq, and he probably doesn't want to attack northern Iraq until he can also definitely take out southern Iraq. So maybe next turn he attacks southern Iran. The turn after that, maybe he goes after Iraq, because really, if he's already taken out Iran and opened himself up to a DOW, an allied DOW, then he hasn't. One quick thing, he hasn't opened himself up to an allied declaration of war because there's 2 clauses. One is that the U.S. has to be at 63 income. He has to be, at a wartime enough to declare war, and he possesses a territory that's outside the sphere of influence. So, but I'm pretty sure he knows that that's an eventuality, and so he may be thinking Iran this turn and maybe Iraq next turn. Going over here to look at India, you can just see that the Japanese are in a position where they could, maybe he's going to declare war and use his surprise attack on India. He might do that because I rolled such a high number. He probably is. I thought he was going to go for Dutch East Indies because there's only 2d12. So a good rule of thumb is 2d12 is about 13. That would put me up to 51. If I had another turn of peacetime, 51. average 6.5, so get up to 57, 58. Whereas if he goes for India this next round, it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to hit my wartime income and be able to go to war. Um, Up here, it's interesting. I don't generally I don't think I've, in a version 3, I saw someone buying medium armor. Uh, I really like what Silk had done with his Japanese. He was consistently buying a cavalry, one per turn, and just moving it through Suiyan into Shenzi. Every turn, boom, 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 building this up. But then on turn 8, you can no longer buy cavalry. Turn 7 is the last turn that you can buy cavalry. And so then he switched over to a medium armor. I guess that's what he's going to build. Silk just has a very impressive army. Uh, Big stacks of infantry and marines. Um, I don't have his task force marker up there, but this one is 5 infantry, 2 marines, and 5 artillery. So is he going to go here and hit this Singapore, British Malaya? That's what I'm trying to say. Because the fortification does not. Oh, wait, it might. I believe British Malaya might be a special fortification zone. I could be wrong. I know that in reality, the fortification did not protect Singapore from a Japanese attack. Interestingly, the Japanese came in mainly on bicycles. They had a lot of troops on bicycles coming down to attack and surprised the British, and the fortifications weren't able to protect them. Okay, so let's go over to the United States here. And I'm in Midway. There's a major port there. So that it makes my transport able to move 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm not worried that I ruined my surprise. Silk is far too clever a player to have fallen for me, coming over and dropping my 1 infantry in Tokyo. He wasn't going to let that happen. But I do make him think, and so he's going to have this is going to be a very interesting turn, and I encourage you to tune in to turn 9.4 because I am eagerly awaiting Japan's move. What is he going to do? So it's a really great game, and I'm very excited to see what happens next.